the Snake River Radio Players Christmas Special, Twas, at Trinity United Methodist Church in beautiful downtown Idaho Falls. Tonight's stories include A Christmas Peril, Jimsy the Christmas Kid, and the musical talents of Old Man Gower and the Buffalo Gals. Take it away, gals.
It's a marshmallow world in the winter when the snow comes to cover the ground. It's the time for play, it's a whipped cream day. I wait for it the whole year round. Those are marshmallow clouds being friendly in the arms of the evergreen tree. And the sun is red like a pumpkin head. It's shining so your nose won't freeze. The world is your snowball, see how it grows. That's how it goes whenever it snows. The world is your snowball just for a song. Get out and roll it along. It's a yummy world made for sweethearts. Take a walk with your favorite girl. It's a sugar date while the spring is late. In winter it's a marshmallow world.
Wow, what a way to open our show. Even better than the Haynes sisters. Merry Christmas, everyone. I am your host, Mason McKinney. Ethel, that was amazing. Weren't they amazing, folks?
Why, thank you, Mason. It is an honor to be here again.
Well, it wouldn't be Christmas without you, Ethel. Tell us, who have you brought with you this year?
Of course. Why, I brought my kid sister Edna. Do you know her blackberry jam took second place at the county fair this year?
Second place? What?
That's only because she won first place with my recipe, and her son Edgar was the judge.
Bless her heart. And of course, that's Old Man Gower over at their piano. Say hi, Pappy. Say hi, Pappy.
Say what?
Hi.
Hello.
Pappy, it's always a pleasure to have you with us, of course. Now, Ethel, I understand later in the show you're going to also come up here and share some other talents up here with the players. Is that right?
Why, yes, Mason. I will.
Very good.
Mason, I will also be singing a little later on in the show.
We'll both be singing later in the... Quit shoving me.
That's very good. I'm sure we're all looking forward to that. Welcome back. We look forward to hearing more from you later, but for now, on with the show. And boy, do we have a treat for you all tonight. You'll be hearing several stories and songs you're more or less familiar with. We hope you like our take on these classics. So settle in, get comfortable, and take the phone off the hook, because you're not going to want to miss a minute of this special broadcast. Now, travel with me beyond the walls of this beautiful church to the city that never sleeps. It's here that our first story begins. We find ourselves in the bustling city streets, gliding past banks and stores all lit up with Christmas cheer. Shoppers, buried beneath layers of coats and scarves, rush in and out of shops searching for last-minute treasures. We continue on to a decidedly lower-rent neighborhood and arrive in a rundown office. The smell of paper, dust, and old gin hangs in the air so thick you could cut it into bricks and sell it to build cheap houses.
Molly was dead. To begin with, I had no doubt about that. His death certificate had been signed by the Sawbones, the Undertaker, and a whole army of pencil pushers. Heck, I'd signed it myself. Yeah, old Molly was dead as a doornail. I knew he was dead. Of course I did. After all, it doesn't take the greatest detective in the world to recognize when his own partner's been shot in the back, and he started dancing what old Bill Shakespeare called the Mortal Coil Shuffle. After 7 years, I still hadn't had Jake's name taken off the window on our office door. It still said the same thing it always had. Scrooge and Marley, private detectives. I guess I ought to introduce myself. The name's Scrooge, Eb Scrooge, P.I. I'm the worst kind of gumshoe in the world. The kind that can't solve his own partner's murder. It was December 24th, and the fog was rolling in over the bay, making 3 in the afternoon look a lot like midnight. My nephew Freddie says I don't keep a holiday, but I was keeping it in my own way, with a tall bourbon eggnog. Hold the nog. I was in a bit of an argument with my secretary, Miss Cratchit, who'd asked for the next day off. She claimed that nobody was open on Christmas anyway, and with the weather about to turn, the chance of someone trudging downtown to solicit our specific type of work was slim at best.
It's Christmas. No one's gonna hire a detective over the holiday.
Sister, our business is death, and death doesn't take a holiday.
Come on, Mr. Scrooge. It's just one day.
All right, but a day's wage for no work, that's the only present you're getting from me.
Well, you gonna get me another present?
You know Fingers Massetti, that stooge we brought in last week?
What about him?
You could teach him a thing or two, picking a guy's pocket every 25th of December. I ought to hire a detective to solve the mystery of where my money goes.
You're a riot, Mr. Scrooge. Watch out, Jack Benny. Ebenezer Scrooge is gunning for your job.
Well, if you're taking tomorrow off, you might as well hit the bricks now. With this fog rolling in, I ain't expecting any company tonight.
Thanks a bunch, Mr. Scrooge. You know, everyone I know says you've got no heart. But I think, deep down, you're a good egg after all.
Yeah, well, every egg's gotta crack sooner or later.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge.
Yeah, good night. On her way out, she had let in 2 unexpected guests. They were both portly gents, standing with their hats, books, and papers in their hands. One of them was lugging around a pretty heavy-looking suitcase, too.
Scrooge and Marley's, I presume? I must have the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge.
You know, you're the first guy in 7 years to know offhand that I'm Scrooge. Most folks ask me whether I'm Scrooge or Marley. Mr. Marley has been dead for 7 years. 7 years tonight, to be exact.
Oh, yes, well, we're well aware of that. You see, you see, my name is Mr. Tulkinghorn, and this is Mr. Vole. We represent the law firm of Kenge, Carboy, Tulkinghorn, and Vole. Yes.
You don't say. What are a couple of shysters doing out on Christmas Eve? You ain't taking the holiday?
Yeah, well, we will be following our meeting with you.
That important, eh? All right, who's suing me?
No, you don't understand. We were your late partner's lawyers, and we're here regarding his estate. You see, it was Mr. Marley's instructions that were he to die in a violent manner, we were to deliver a particular message to you on the 7th anniversary of his demise.
No kidding. Jake left me a message, eh? Well, that's a lot more forethought than he ever had when he was alive. I was just about to close up shop, but if you want to leave me his note, I'll read it later.
Oh, I'm afraid we can't do that, Mr. Scrooge. You see, Mr. Marley recorded the message as a gramophone record. We'll need to play it for you. May I?
He lifted the big suitcase up onto my desk and unlatched it to reveal a portable Victrola of all things. Then he produced a record and put the needle to it.
Oh, I got this set on the wrong speed here. Let me fix that and try again.
Scrooge! It's me. In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Yeah, that's Jake, all right. You know, he sounds better dead than alive.
Oh,
Look, Eb, there's no easy way to say this. If you're listening to this, my weary journey's behind me. I'm now doomed to wander through the world, seeing things I can't share, but could have shared on Earth. You know, I'm dead.
They could always turn a phrase.
listen.
Eb, you and I both know this business we're in is dangerous, and I think my time is nearly gone. Anyways, I'm recording this message to warn yous. It's too late for me, but you got a chance and a hope of escaping my fate.
He was always a pal.
Well, the recording ends there. However, he did leave a list of 3 witnesses he claimed would know what happened to him. We've arranged for you to meet with each of them tonight. You'll be meeting with the first at 6.
Well, that's crazy. Why did he want you fellas to wait 7 years before giving me this message?
Oh, well, he wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt. And, give you some time to solve the case yourself.
He thought I couldn't crack it in 7 years?
Well, have you?
good point.
We have an address for you here, Mr. Scrooge. Do you know it?
I looked at the address scribbled on the piece of paper they handed me. Yeah, I knew it. After they left, I had just enough time to guzzle down some coffee to try to counteract the effects of the nog, splash some water on my face, throw on a clean shirt, and be out the door at past. On the way out, I passed the neighborhood shoeshine boy who likes to work late, even on holidays.
Hiya, Mr. Scrooge. Can I give you a shine? Got a Christmas special going on. I'll shine both shoes for the price of a pair.
No, not today, Tim. Maybe tomorrow.
Ain't working tomorrow. It's Christmas.
An industrious fellow like you taking a day off?
One day you ain't gonna bankrupt me.
Yeah, well, tell you what. I'll catch you the day after that, and I'll bring my wingtips.
Sounds good. You'll be just in time for my Boxing Day extravaganza.
I arrived early, the way I like it. Gives a man time to make those extra little observations that are crucial in my line of work. There was nothing I could put my finger on, but there was something I didn't like.
Good evening, Mr. Scrooge.
Surprised he'd gotten the jump on me, I spun around to face my visitor. He cut a strange figure, a jumpy little guy, small-boned and short. The deep worry lines on his face made him look older than he was, but his height made him look like a kid. His hair was dark and glossy. He wore a pinstripe suit and two-toned spectator shoes. He twirled a gray Homburg hat in his hands nervously as he spoke.
Thank you so much for meeting with me, Mr. Scrooge. I apologize about the short notice, but it was the only way I could be sure we could meet without being seen by unwelcome eyes.
Yeah, well, don't worry about that. Most of these buildings are abandoned. This one especially. Around here, even the mice aren't stirring. I didn't catch your name.
Oh, I think we can dispense with the formality of names. You may call me, Mr. Past.
Who's past?
Your past.
Well, then, I would explain where you wanted to meet. What's the idea? Of all the abandoned buildings in all the world, you make me walk into this one.
Then you know this place.
Know it? I was apprenticed here. Look at the faded sign on the door. Fezziwig Detective Agency. This is where every gumshoe in the city cut his teeth, including me and Marley. But I think you knew that already.
I did indeed. Shall we go in?
I got a lot of memories in this place.
Fond memories.
Most of them. He seemed to know a lot about me, so I couldn't be sure if he knew the main reason why this building was hard for me to come back to. Sure, I had lots of memories of my old boss Fezziwig, Marley, and a half a dozen other Seamuses I'd worked with here, but all of those memories were overshadowed by one. A memory of another Christmas. Years ago. The last, well, maybe the only happy Christmas I can remember. The Christmas when I met her. It was during one of Fezziwig's parties. I'd snuck away from the festivities for a few minutes and gone to my small corner office to review a case file. We'd been hired by a building and loan firm in upstate New York. Seems one of the business partners had mislaid $8,000, and his nephew, unsure of his uncle's honesty, or his sobriety, had asked us to see if we could find it. There was a soft tap on my door, and the case became second in my mind. Like I said, I hadn't had a lot of Merry Christmases, but that Christmas Eve, when I looked up and saw who was standing in my doorway, I knew that somehow I'd made Santa's nice list to deserve a present like this, neatly wrapped up in a red velvet dress and a Kelly green bow. Her eyes were blue and cool as ice, her lips red and soft like poinsettias, and her soft, flowing hair as black and shiny as the coal I'd deserve in my stocking for the thoughts I was thinking about her.
Excuse me, are you Mr. Fezziwig?
I'm not, but for you, honey, I'd be willing to change my name. I'm a junior detective here, named Scrooge, Ab Scrooge. I'm just doing a little light reading here, then you and I can go back to the party. After a few slow dances to some Les Brown tunes, I'll introduce you to old Fez.
You work very fast, Mr. Scrooge.
It's kind of important in my line of work, sweetheart. I'm kind of the rising star in the agency. I always get my man.
Well then, that's something we have in common.
You work fast too, miss. Say, I didn't catch your name.
I didn't throw it. It's Belle.
Belle? I like that. Well, Belle, I'm gonna give you my business card. That little number right there is my direct extension. You call that whenever you need help, and I will handle your business personally.
This is an agency full of detectives. Why should I call you Mr. Scrooge?
It'll be an act of divine charity.
How's that?
Well, haven't you heard what happens every time a bell rings?
I've heard something about it, but I don't think I have time to be giving out wings to anyone.
Then tell you what, why do we make time together, Angel?
Well, I'm afraid I do need to find Mr. Fezziwig. You see, I'm his new personal secretary.
Ooh, how personal.
Not personal enough that you need to worry about it, Mr. Scrooge. Why don't you take me back to that party, and if you're real nice, I'll let you buy me a drink.
Mr. Scrooge?
Huh?
You seemed distant there for a moment, Mr. Scrooge.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was somewhere else for a minute. Or I guess, somewhen else. I was just thinking about a party we had here, a long time ago.
Yes, it's my understanding that Mr. Fezziwig used to throw quite the elaborate holiday celebrations.
Biggest Christmas shindigs in town. Say, what's with you anyways, little guy? What's in this for you?
Oh, I'm only interested in your welfare, Mr. Scrooge.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm a big boy and can take care of myself. Besides, a good night's sleep would be better for that.
Your reclamation then, huh? Oh, wait, watch out!
Thanks to Mr. Past's warning, we were able to get down in time. I had my Browning 1910 semi-auto out before you could say Merry Christmas. I hadn't laid eyes on the gunman, but I could hear him running up the stairs and down the hall. I took the stairs 3 at a time, and then launched myself into an impersonation of a Kentucky Derby champ. Whoever the guy was, he was fast. By the time I made it to the end of the hall, he jumped out a broken window and climbed down the fire escape to the alley. Past got up to me a few minutes later, sweaty and short of breath.
Who was that, Mr. Scrooge?
I think you're reading my lines, pal. Do you know who that was? You called me here to lead me into a trap?
Oh, no, Mr. Scrooge. If I had intended to lead you into a trap, would I have warned you when I saw the gunman?
I guess not. You see him? Could you describe him?
No, I'm afraid not. Whoever he was dressed all in black. Fortunately, I caught a glimpse of moonlight flashing off of his gun when he removed it from his coat.
Yeah, we're lucky like that. The rest of the night was a bust. The only thing Past left me with was the time and place of my next appointment. I was to meet my next visitor in front of my office at 8. It was almost that time when I got back to the office. At 8, right on the dot, a Rolls-Royce limousine pulled up, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be my ride. A car like that in my neighborhood was as conspicuous as a reindeer with a red nose. You going my way, driver?
Yes, sir, Mr. Scrooge. If you would please, the master would like a word with you.
He opened the back door and I looked inside. The car was large and luxurious, with an extra middle seat facing the rear. Seated comfortably, the backmost seat was a jolly giant of a man. He had bulbous pink cheeks and chins. His eyes, made small by fat puffs around them, were dark and sleek. He wore a deep green cutaway coat and trousers, a white ascot tie, and patent leather shoes.
Mr. Scrooge! Come in! Come in and know me better, man.
I crawled inside and took the seat facing him. I had to. He filled the entire row he was sitting in.
I dare say you've never seen the like of me before.
Can't say that I have. Will I regret it if I ask your name?
You may call me Mr. Present.
I thought the answer might be something like that.
I believe you've met my associate, Mr. Past.
I have.
Might I offer you a drink?
Oh, you might.
How do you take your brandy?
In a glass. Unless you've got a funnel.
I hope you don't mind if we skip the pleasantries and get down to the business of why I wanted to see you.
I don't mind at all. After all, someone took a shot at me and your pal, Mr. Past. That wouldn't have been you, would it, Mr. Present?
Nonsense, Mr. Scrooge. I abhor violence. Like my friend, Mr. Past, I am speaking only as a witness.
You see Marley's murder, then?
Well, no, I can't say that I did.
Neither had your buddy. You two are really something. You call yourselves witnesses? Maybe I should get you a pair of dictionaries for Christmas. I don't think you know the meaning of the word.
Well, we may not be witnesses in the traditional sense, Mr. Scrooge, but I assure you, I have something to show you. Barker!
Yes, sir?
The corner of 34th and Broadway, please.
Yes, sir, though in this traffic it'll be a miracle if we get there before closing time.
The driver drove us downtown and parked in front of one of those big department stores. The crowd was bustling, full of last-minute shoppers trying to get home with whatever they'd forgotten to pick up before the big day.
And here we are, Mr. Scrooge.
What are we doing here?
Please, look out your window and observe the young woman and child exiting the store across the street.
Say, that's Bobby Cratchit, my secretary. What's she doing with the crippled shoeshine kid that hangs out in front of my office?
That crippled shoeshine kid, as you call him, is Ms. Cratchit's son, Timothy.
I had no idea she had a kid. I didn't even know there was a Mr. Cratchit.
Well, there was. Mr. Cratchit, or rather Lieutenant Cratchit of the 3rd Infantry, was killed in the Battle of Cisterna 2 years ago. Ms. Cratchit has had to raise young Timothy on her own.
I don't get it. They don't have any packages. They didn't buy anything.
Well, Ms. Cratchit has been picking up shifts at the store whenever possible. Timothy insists on meeting her at the end of her shift to walk her home. He feels it's his duty to protect his mother, although he does enjoy browsing through the toys.
She's a real beaut, Ma. She's got a compass in the stocking and English tells time. I think if I could have any present for Christmas, that's what I'd want.
Oh, Timmy, I don't know. Those things make me nervous. I don't want anyone shooting their eye out.
I'd be careful, Ma. Honest, I would.
Listen, Timmy, you know I'd love to give you a big Christmas with lots of presents and a tree and a turkey. But, honey, you know money's been tight and...
I know, Ma. I understand. I don't need any presents at all. Mr. Scrooge gave you the day off, so he gave me the greatest gift of all. We can have Christmas together, just you and me, and that's better than any old toy any day.
That's it? That's all you have to show me? You know, I don't like being played for a chump, Mr. Present. I've got a murderer to find, and all you and your buddy Mr. Past have done is take me for a trip down memory lane. What does this have to do with Marley's murder?
I'm really not at liberty to say, but you do well to think of how you treat the people in your life, Mr. Scrooge, and how you show appreciation to them. It really does affect them in ways you may not understand. Barker?
Yes, sir?
Back to Mr. Scrooge's office.
Yes, sir.
I felt like a heel. Here I told her that the day off was the only gift she'd be getting from me. I had no idea it was going to be the only gift she or her son would get at all. It wasn't just that either. I thought back on everyone in my life. How Jake and I had left Fez's agency when he started to have business trouble. Left him to fend for himself. How it had been 7 years since Jake's murder, and I'd let other cases get in the way. When a man's partner is killed, he's supposed to do something about it. And I'd barely lifted a finger. But none of those stung as much as thinking about Belle. I'd been in love once in my life, and it was good for a few years. But I never really let her know how much she meant. Never realized it myself until the day she walked out of my life.
All of this will make sense in due time, Mr. Scrooge. The third witness you are scheduled to meet tonight will have key evidence that will lead you to your partner's murderer. I have been entrusted to give you this note with the address where you are to meet them at the stroke of midnight.
I looked at the address. 525th Street. It was a convenient place to meet a possible killer. If things went south, my last trip would be a short one. It was Greenwood Cemetery. I had just enough time to stop back at the office, drink my dinner, and make a couple of phone calls before I headed out to what I hoped wouldn't be my last appointment ever. In the daylight, Greenwood Cemetery is actually real nice. Wouldn't be my choice for a picnic, but if you gotta take the big sleep, there are worse places for it. But in the dead of night, in the dead of winter, It's not a place you'd, want to be caught dead in. Which is exactly what the residents were doing, and what I was trying to avoid. The bells of St. Mary's broke the silence. Midnight. Time for my meeting. A figure, clad all in black, moved slowly towards me. A broad-brimmed fedora, pulled down far enough I couldn't make out a face. I don't scare easy, but out of everything I'd encountered in 20 years of the detective game, I feared this the most. So, I take it you're Mr. Future? You're the last witness that's somehow supposed to help me find the guy who killed my partner? You know, I hope you're more helpful than the other two guys, because to tell you the truth, they've been about as helpful as a screen door on a submarine. One of them, Mr. President, seems to think you know who the killer is. That true? You know, you talk too much. Yeah, I got a theory of my own. I think you killed Marley. What do you think of that, Belle?
Hello, Ab.
Hello, sweetheart. What's it been? 10 years?
12.
What's this all about? Why you got me running all over town? Didn't I give you my business card once upon a time?
It's about a lot of things, Eb. Things I wouldn't expect you to understand.
Try me.
You replaced me, Eb. I know it doesn't mean a hill of beans to you, but you replaced me with a new idol.
Replaced you with an idol? You talking about that statue I recovered? That gold bird with the jewels?
No, not a golden idol.
Then what idol replaced you?
The job, Eb. You replaced me with your love, your obsession with solving mysteries. You showed me that no matter how much you said you loved me, I'd never mean as much to you as people who were dead.
That's the way of the world, sweetheart. There's folks out there making a nasty habit of decreasing the surplus population, and somebody has to do something about it.
I get that, Eb. The problem wasn't the job. It was the lonely nights. It was being stood up again because you got a tip that turned out to be nothing again. It was going from talks about our future to talks about their past. It was never enough for you. All your other aspirations fell off one by one until there was nothing left but a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, clutching, covetous old sinner. You used to have some softness in you, Eb, when we first met. But now you're as hard and sharp as flint.
So what? So I was dedicated to my job. It didn't make one lick of difference in the way I felt about you.
Our contract was an old one, Eb, made in a different time, when you were a different man.
I was a kid.
Well, I guess we've both grown up.
I guess so. There's just one thing I don't understand about this, Belle. I get that you think I done you wrong. I ain't saying you're right about that. I ain't saying you're wrong either. Just saying I get it. But what I don't get is, what made you decide to kill Jake Marley?
It was dark that night. Dark like this one and foggy. I waited by your office. I saw someone leave and I followed him. I didn't know it was Jake. I thought...
You thought it was me.
That's right, I did. I knew that night what I had to do, and I know now what I have to do. You will. The memory of the past makes me hope you will have pain in this. A very, very brief time. I release you with a full heart for the love of him you once were. Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge!
I know what you're thinking. Not a very Christmassy way to end the story. Bumping off the hero. It's not joyful or merry. Not enough peace on earth and goodwill and all that jazz. But you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that you don't have enough patience, and you jump too quickly to conclusions. You'd make a bad detective, my friend. I'll admit, when I heard the sound of that gunshot, I thought my Christmas goose was cooked. Even caught myself closing my eyes. But when I opened them, it was still cold. It was still Christmas morning, and even though I was in a cemetery, I was still standing upright. Belle's gun was on the ground a few feet away from her. She was clutching her hand and moaning softly. Not in a great amount of pain, but enough to keep her from trying another shot. Someone had shot the gun right out of her hand. I turned around to greet my benefactor.
Ain't she great, Mr. Scrooge? It's the official model, you know. A carbine action, 200-shot range model air rifle. What'd you think of her, Mr. Scrooge?
It's the stuff dreams are made of, kid.
Yeah, right, Mr. Scrooge.
I've seen better days, but I'm still breathing.
Help is on the way. I phoned Inspector Bucket before we left the house. Police should be here any minute. We came as soon as we figured out where you were. I didn't want to bring Timmy along, but now I'm thinking it's a good thing he insisted.
I'll go along with that. That BB gun of his just saved my bacon.
You know, it's funny. I don't even know where he got it from. I didn't have enough money to buy him a present at all. Then here, just about an hour ago, these delivery men showed up at the house with presents and a tree and the biggest town truck you ever laid your eyes on. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Mr. Scrooge?
It's a possibility, Miss Cratchit. We'll talk about it more tomorrow morning when we discuss your raise.
A raise? Me? Oh my goodness! I don't know what to God bless you, Mr. Scrooge!
God bless us, everyone.
Timmy, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
And so we close the case file on the first great adventure of Ebenezer Scrooge, Private Detective. Be sure to tune in next week for another gripping story when we present Ebenezer Scrooge in The Mystery of Edwin Drood. Just wait till you hear the ending the writer has prepared for that one. And speaking of writers, we'd regret it if we didn't take a moment to point out that while this story was obviously based on Charles Dickens' classic novella A Christmas Carol, this new unique take on the story is a brand new original script written especially for the Snake River radio players by our own Ryan Atwood. Ryan usually hides over there behind the foley table. He's kind of shy about these things, but I'm sure he appreciates the applause. Now, we couldn't do this without the help of our wonderful sponsors, and tonight's sponsor for the first half is Wackerly Subaru. Say, now that the war is over, does driving your boring old car got you down? Do you miss being able to drive your tank right up and over the toughest obstacle? If so, you need to come on down and see the fine folks at Wackerly Subaru. The Wackerly family has been selling quality cars and trucks right here in Idaho Falls for over 50 years. So if you need a new vehicle, go on down and see our friends at Wackerly. They invite you to come experience the Wackerly way. Low prices every day. Thank you for your support. And now we have some sad news. As you probably know, one of our biggest supporters in the past has been the National Mime Broadcasters Association. Each year we eagerly await their touching Christmas message. We are sorry to report, however, that their representative has been trapped in an invisible box for quite some time. Needless to say, she couldn't be with us here today. And so we will have to skip it for this year, which is a real shame because a mime is a terrible thing to waste. We wish our friends well. And how about a big hand for the National Mime Broadcasters Association? And now, on with the show.
Over the ground lies a mantle of white, a heaven of diamonds shine down through the night. Two hearts are thrilling in spite of the chill in the weather. Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening. A beautiful sight, we're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland. Gone away is the bluebird, here to stay is a new bird. He sings a love song as we go along, walking in a winter wonderland. In the meadow we we can build a snowman and pretend that he is Parson Brown. He'll say, are you married? We'll say, no, man. But you can do the job when you're in town. Later on, we'll conspire as we dream by the fire to face unafraid the plans that we made, walking in a winter wonderland.
And now, we have a special treat for our studio audience. We're going to bring forward our head Foley artist, Ryan Atwood, to showcase his talents through a reading of the beloved story best known as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." While Ryan is setting up for his demonstration, let me take a moment to explain a little about what Foley is. Generally speaking, Foley is the addition of supporting sound effects to a broadcast or recording. All of the sound effects you hear in our shows are crafted by our Foley team using a variety of common and not so common objects. Tonight, our friend Mike will be reading Mr. Moore's classic poem, and Ryan will help bring the story to life with specially chosen sound effects. Ryan, is everything ready? Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas.
A Visit from St. Nicholas by Clement Clark Moore. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief, God bless you, and I in my cap, had just settled their brains for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore up the shutters, and threw up the sash. The moon, dressed in the white fallen snow, gave a luster of midday to objects below. When what to my wondering eyes did appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick,
Yes, hello, Mr. Scrooge. You're in the bag. I want to talk to you.
I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came. He whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer, and Vixen. On Comet, on Cupid, on Donner, and Blitzen. Blitz? To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew. They flew. With a sleigh full of toys. And St. Nicholas, too. And then in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. I drew in my head and was turning around. Down the chimney, St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur, from his head to his foot. And fur? Fur. And his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back. He looked looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump. Hey! A right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his... A wink... A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, and then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, God bless you, and giving a nod up the chimney he rode. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and they all flew away like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night!"
And now, another word from our sponsors.
Folks, let me tell you a little story about a guy named Mr. Joe. Joe was a popular fella with loads of friends and a happy, healthy social life. But a while back, friends started to notice a change because Joe wasn't around as often. They missed seeing him at the malt shop and wondered why he'd become such a stranger. The truth is, Joe had a secret. Joe suffered from gastrointestinal distress. He often felt sick and nauseated and found himself frequently dealing with heartburn and indigestions, even abdominal pains. Well, folks, Joe wasn't alone. It's estimated that 11% of you suffers from a chronic digestive disease. But Joe soon learned he didn't have to suffer at all. Joe took a trip down to see the knowledgeable, board-certified gastroenterologists and the friendly staff at Grand Teton Gastroenterology. And with their help, Joe found himself right back in the swing of things in no time. If you're feeling out of sorts, call and make an appointment today. Thank you.
I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents on the tree. Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams. Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams.
If only in my dreams. Wonderful again, gals. Ethel, I understand you're about to make all our dreams come true and come showcase some of your other talents. Is that right?
Oh, why, yes, I am, Mason, and I'm just going to do the best I can with your darling Yankee accent.
I'm sure we're all looking forward to that. But what a simple thing. To want to be home for Christmas, to feel warm and safe and welcomed and loved. To go back to a time and place when the promise of presents was thrilling, the anticipation of new snow was exciting, and Christmas was altogether magical. We go now to rural New England, 1905, to meet a little boy who believed in the magic of Christmas, despite never knowing it himself.
Jimsy arrived at twilight with the bubbling air of faith that something wonderful was about to happen, just as the first citizen was about to read his paper. The mere sight of this thin, eager, disheveled youngster sent a shock through the first citizen. How was it that this city urchin detracted in some ridiculous way from the respectability of the room? The child was an inharmonious note in a home of structure and silence. Moreover, it was evident from the frank friendliness of his dark gray eyes that he was perniciously of the type to frolic through the frosty first citizen's aura and give and accept friendship as a matter of course.
What is your name?
Jimsy.
Judith?
Yes, dear.
We have company. Mr. Jimsy has arrived.
Nah, sir. Jimsy's the handle. I'm a stray, I am. Ain't got no folks. Mama Dorgan says you have to have folks to have a family name. I'm the Christmas kid.
To be sure you are, to be sure. And where are your things?
Ain't only got one set of clothes, and they weren't fit to wear. Mama Dorgan borrowed these duds for me. She's awful nice when she's sober.
Quite unaware of the scandalized flutter in the room, whose oval portraits of the ancestral Sawyers might well have tumbled down at the notion of anyone being anything but sober, the boy moved closer to the fire.
Gee, ain't that a fire now, ain't it?
Yes, I suppose it is. Judith? Supper?
Yes, supper will be ready shortly. Jimsy, make yourself at home.
Gee whiz, look at that! Ain't the snow white?
Snow is always white.
Nah, New York snow's gray and dirty. I seen this snow from the hills from the train window. On the train, I heard all about regular old-fashioned country Christmases. Fire like this, and Christmas trees, and sleigh bells, and gifts, and wreaths, and skating, and holly.
That will be quite enough.
Sure it will. A Christmas like that's enough for any kid.
Irritably conscious that his reproof had been misinterpreted, the first citizen riveted his gaze on his paper. But he could not read. Jimsy's irreverent air of friendliness was not the only disturbing factor. In this Christmasing, Jimsy plainly was cherishing expectations.
James, I must take this occasion to inform you that Mrs. Sawyer and I spend Christmas quietly. Very quietly. We have never had a Christmas tree. And personally, I consider holly to be most suitable and decorative where nature planted it. Christmas is merely a day and a dinner. Let the frivolous make of it a monstrosity of sentimentality if they will.
Gee, your Christmas ain't just an extra Sunday, is it?
Well, no, it is somewhat different.
How's it different?
I hardly know.
What do you have that you don't have on Sundays?
I believe it's the turkey.
Gee, that's more enough itself to make Christmas. He ain't never tasted turkey before. Don't you worry none about that there Christmas tree and no holly. We'll thump all through it anyhow.
Supper is ready.
It is conceivable that the first citizens' experience with thump-wallopers had been limited, and it was disconcerting to note that Jimsy still bristled with faith and cheerful expectations. The first citizen rose, but even as he did so, his world of order seemed to rock in chaos at his feet. He was going to supper, and he had not read a single line of the paper. After supper, Jimsy followed Judith to the kitchen, and here in the shining quiet of an old-fashioned hearth, the memory-making mystery of a child and woman in a homely setting drew taut an age-old chord of sympathy. Jimsy did not know why Judith smiled, or why her smile made his throat hurt a little. He only knew by her eyes that she liked him, and that was enough.
Aunt Judith, can I call you that? Let me wipe those dishes for you.
Bless your heart, Jimsy. There are so few I can do them myself in no time.
Well then, let me take Uncle Ab's job tonight and get the wood.
Jimsy, you must never call Mr. Sawyer Uncle Ab.
But Aunt Judith fits you so well, and Uncle Ab...
It's different. I'm nobody in particular. Mr. Sawyer is a bank president and is considered to be the founder of our community. No, Jimsy, you must call him Mr. Sawyer. And I always get the wood myself. The kindlings are split and piled in the shed.
Nah, now that I'm here, I'll only work for my room and food.
Well, I suppose. But hurry, child, the wind is sharp.
Jimsy set forth with a noisy whistle. When he returned with an armful of kindlings, his eyes were shining. Holding the door ajar, he coaxed into the warmth of the kitchen a shivering dog, little and lame and thin.
Aunt Judith, look! He was out there under the woodpile, and he's a stray too like me. I'm calling Stump. 'Cause he ain't got no tail. Can't you maybe just let him sleep behind the stove? He's sort of shivering, and I feel awful sorry for him.
No, I can't. I can't indeed. Mr. Sawyer would never...
James! Put the dog out!
Mr. Sawyer, but, well, please, can't you see how poor off he is? I have a heart.
I am fully equipped with the organ you mentioned. Put the dog out!
Jimsy reluctantly obeyed and closed the door upon the shivering little waif who scratched and whined at the place of his lost paradise. Bedtime was at hand, and Jimsy followed Aunt Judith up to his temporary room. As Jimsy lay in the great old-fashioned bed, being tucked in with hands so tremulous and gentle that his throat troubled him again, he met Aunt Judith's eyes. Suddenly, Jimsy buried his face in the pillow with a gulp and a sob and clung to her hand. Aunt Judith, shaking, caught him in her arms, held him for a long while, and kissed him good night. Jimsy and Judith, much like Stump the dog, knew variously the meaning of starvation.
Listen to that wind. I bet poor Stump is shivering out there alone. Oh, Stump! I hear ya! I'm coming! Aunt Judith wouldn't leave him out there if she could hear him. And Uncle Eb, well, I'll just take Stump back outside before anyone wakes up.
Rising, Jimsy opened his door a crack and peered cautiously through it. He hurried through the hall and down the stairs to the lower floor. A gust of wind and snow whirled in as he unbarred the kitchen door. The something with an ingratiating waggle pushed gladly against his feet. 5 seconds later, Jimsy and Stump were up the stairs. He found that a door was ajar, with light pouring through the frame. Meaning only to peek, Jimsy leaned into the door when Stump excitedly pushed his way into the room.
Oh my goodness! We've been pinched!
What is the meaning of this? And what is that dog doing in my house?
Wow, what a thump whopper of a shop. Wish Jack Sweeney from Mama Dorgan's home could see this. My, wouldn't his good eye open wide. What you making?
No one, not even Mrs. Sawyer presumes to come beyond this threshold.
The first citizen broke off and frowned impatiently. There was an alarming suggestion of intimacy in the midnight scene with a tailless dog, a boy in a nightshirt, and an inferential person with a good eye by the name of Sweeney.
James, go to bed.
Aw, make it Jimsy. Aunt Judith did. I ain't no stiff with buttons chasing newsies off the porch. Gee, look at that. Making a Christmas present for Aunt Judith on the sly, ain't ya? And polish wood yourself? Gee!
Mrs. Sawyer and I do not exchange gifts at Christmas. This cabinet is for my private office at the bank.
Aw, seems like you ought to give her something for Christmas. She's so awful good and nice. Do you belong to the union?
I beg your pardon?
The Carpenters Union.
Carpentering with me is a fad, not an occupation or a necessity. I am the bank president.
I bet there are lots of bank presidents out there. Not a lot of carpenters can make a cabinet this good. I can plane. Honest, I can. I can whittle too. Let me plane this.
I thank you, but...
His voice faltered under Jimsy's shining gaze, and soon the shavings flew. Stump crouched silently in a corner, his head upon his paws, and the first citizen felt his privacy and his dignity forever compromised by a boy and a dog. The minutes ticked loudly on in the quiet. The clock struck 1. The first citizen rose.
James, Jimsy, you must go to bed.
They held each other's eyes for a moment. Then Jimsy glanced at Stump and said nothing at all. The first citizen was suddenly conscious of being told that he could not accept without giving. The first citizen did not look at Stump. He blew out the light. In silence, the two walked out and closed the door, leaving the mongrel dog asleep in the sanctum. Breakfast the following morning was rather more eventful than either Judith or the first citizen were accustomed to.
Get out of here! You're so mean!
know that they're nice? You just barely met them.
You're so mean! I know
You don't know what you're talking about.
You're so mean! I
He
know.
ain't nothing but an old crab.
No, he ain't.
He is so. He's a stiff and a pinch penny. My dad said so. Everybody in town says so.
I'll whip you if you don't take it back.
You don't know you ain't got no Christmas tree or nothing.
Didn't I tell you about Stump sleeping in his workshop? Ain't that enough? Ain't he good to boys and dogs? I don't want no Christmas tree, you big stiff. I'm gonna have a turkey.
The old man's a miser without a heart. He don't let Mrs. Sawyer have any new clothes and always makes her carry in the wood and do all the working.
What? Say I get home, bust your face good.
Everybody in town
James!
you ain't got no...
Jimsy,
Yes, sir.
come inside. Now.
Yes, sir. He got what he deserved saying all those things about you. I blacked his eye for him and told him he was a liar.
Now listen.
Jimsy, go on upstairs and wash for breakfast.
I was just defending.
Oh, hurry on now. Abner, he's only a child. A little boy who has never had a Christmas. Don't you think just this once we could have a Christmas tree for Jimsy?
Certainly not. out in the street in broad daylight acting like a hooligan and getting into fights? And you want to reward this type of behavior? Christmas will come and go without any fanfare. I can only hope that my reputation is not in ruins by the time the boy goes back to where he belongs. I have lost my appetite.
Yes, just as you say, Abner.
Day before Christmas, the first citizen receives a phone call from the town gossip, the village conscience.
Hello.
Mr. Sawyer?
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting your work, Mr. Sawyer, but I felt that I must call you up.
Yes.
Well, you see, Mr. Sawyer, the ladies and I were having a meeting of the local chapter of the WCTU, and in the middle of tea, the doorbell rang.
Yes?
Yes, just as I was serving the bread and butter. This is the first time that our meeting has been interrupted, and I am sure you can imagine our dismay. Why, just last month, 2 of our members were absent due to coughing fits, just a chill, thankfully, and the month before that, Mrs. Linden had a baby, their first. A girl, unfortunately. We have not had a quorum for 2 months, and today our meeting was interrupted. I am sure you can imagine.
What may I help you with, ma'am?
Oh, of course. I know what a busy man you are, Mr. Sawyer, and I am loath to bother you at all about this matter. But I am sure you would be interested in knowing of the boy's actions today.
The boy? What boy are you talking about?
The orphan boy, of course. That is to say, your orphan boy.
I do not have an orphan boy. By the very nature of the word, if I had a boy, he would not be an orphan. I assume you are speaking of the child visiting over Christmas, James?
Yes, Mr. Sawyer. And may I say how lovely it was of you and Mrs. Sawyer to open your home over the holiday to the dear, sweet little street urchin. The Reverend was right to ask such a distinguished and a generous family. You see, the boy came to my door today begging. He was going door to door, ringing bells and
begging.
Well, perhaps I shouldn't call it just that, but saying, Merry Christmas, rather hopefully.
I see. Thank you for calling.
Of course, Mr. Sawyer. I had no doubts that you would be as shocked and appalled by his actions as I was. Feeling rather sick, the first citizen glanced out of his office window and saw with a shock that Jimsy was waiting beneath a snow-ridged elm. Jimsy caught his eye, smiled warmly, and waved. And because the first citizen did not know what else to do, he stiffly returned the gesture. Reaching for his hat, he went out to meet the boy. Irritably conscious that sufficient sleep and food had already improved the boy's constitution.
Aunt Judith didn't want me to come, but I told her all about how far I walked by myself in the city, and I read 8 too. I coaxed her so hard, she had to let me come. Mr. Sawyer, it's nearly Christmas Eve.
Jimsy?
Yes, sir?
A lady telephoned me at work and informed me that you'd been begging from door to door.
I only rung some bells and said Merry Christmas.
And you expected and received money?
Yes, sir.
Why? Jimsy, I insist upon an explanation.
It was a Christmas surprise for you and Aunt Judith. I seen a book on fancy carpenter and I didn't have no money. And I saw a thimble. It ain't silver, but it's good. I got the book buttoned under my coat. Uncle Ab, I'm awful sorry about the doorbells. All the fellows do it back home.
Why did you wish to give me a Christmas present?
Because you're so awful good to me, and so's Aunt Judith. And I thought maybe you never had nobody ever give you a present and mean it like I do. Or
what, James?
you'd feel different about Christmas.
The first citizen excused himself, telling Jimsy he would see him at the house for supper. Conscious only that his world was awry, and that he hated the village conscience, he was not quite himself even after supper was finished. Judith was talking to the first citizen, and he wished she would not. She rarely spoke, and he was tired and upset and desperately probing within for some remnant of the cold complacence of a week ago.
Abner,
Yes.
the minister was here today. He told me how Mrs. Dorgan took Jimsy in from the streets. She drinks. Well, he hasn't a real home. The minister would like to find one for him.
That is of no interest to me.
Oh, Abner, I want to keep Jimsy. I can't bear to see him go, and
Judith! How could you think of such a thing? That boy does not belong here with us.
Abner, please. You know how I've longed for a child, and now we've been sent Jimsy. He's so loving and sweet. Well, he's everything that
I have given you my answer on this subject. Let us not discuss it further.
You are a hard, cold man, and the house is so lonely. I hate it. I hate it. There's no one to love it. And everything the neighbor boy said to Jimsy is true. You are an uncaring miser who has never shown me love or appreciation beyond being grateful for timely meals and silent evenings so that you can read the paper. I can't have to be in this house with you a moment longer.
And then, crying and shaking, she was gone. The first citizen was aware that his pompous illusions of his little world were crumbling around him. Miser, pinchpenny. Up and down his quiet workshop he walked, clinging in agony of humiliation to the loyalty of a street urchin. It was all he had. Jimsy alone saw him and liked him. He must then prove himself to Jimsy, to Judith, the neighbor boy, the entire town. The clock struck 6. It was Christmas morning. Jimsy awoke with the thought of turkey utmost in his mind, to find Judith by his bed, a wonderful look of Christmas in her gentle face.
Come quickly, Jimsy, and don't make a sound.
What is it, Aunt Judith?
It's a Christmas secret that nobody but you and I must know. Come with me to the sewing room.
Yes, Aunt Judith. Aunt Judith!
There, in the quiet of Judith's sewing room, Jimsy had his first Christmas. A Christmas tree winked and rainbowed glory in a window by the eaves, everything beneath its tinseled branches that the heart of a boy could wish.
You like it, Jimsy? You're sure you like it, dear?
I don't know what to say. It's all so wow! But...
Yes, Jimsy, what is it?
Well, I wish Uncle Ab believed in Christmas.
Bless your heart, Jimsy. So do I.
But even hours filled with wonder must end, and presently Aunt Judith and Jimsy went down hand in hand to attend to the fire and breakfast. Imagine their surprise to find the hearth aglow with a roaring fire, and the sitting room aglow with Christmas cheer.
Uncle Ab! Uncle Ab! You didn't! Look at that Christmas tree and presents! You went and done all that for me?
I don't know. I think so.
How? When did you do it?
It must have been after midnight. I came in very quietly. The ride was long. I went to sleep in town. You must have been asleep in bed.
2 trees, 2 suits of clothes, 2 everything! Oh my goodness! Specs, he's just gonna die! I
show me, Judith?
Yes, Jimsy, of course. Abner, the Christmas tree. One of Jimsy's Christmas trees is in the sewing room. I'd like very much for you to see it.
Woo! In this manner did the first citizen, Judith and Jimsy, spend their Christmas morning. Jimsy making exclamations of pride and joy in every detail of his two Christmases. After breakfast, Jimsy found Specs peering in the sitting room window in awe of the sudden appearance of Christmas in the Sawyer home. Specs didn't know what to say. There in the sitting room was a Christmas tree, and it was bigger than his own.
Look at this one, Specs, and the greatest, going upstairs too. I'm glad he sort of wanted it to be awful Christmassy throughout the whole house. And Jiminy Cricket, Specs it is.
Uncle Ab? Who's Uncle Ab?
Uncle Ab Sawyer. Why? What you gotta say about it?
Nothing.
Did you get 2 Christmas trees?
Nah, not many folks did, I guess. It ain't nothing to crow about anyway.
Huh. I thought you said your family was more Christmassy than us.
I didn't.
You did.
I didn't.
You did too, and I walloped you for it. I'll wallop you again if you says you didn't.
I guess I did.
I told you so, didn't I? Hey, did you get skate Specs?
Nope.
Gosh, I'm sorry for that. I got 2 pairs. How about I give you the second?
Really? Gosh, you know, I got a sled, Jimsy.
Huh, so did I. 2 of them. Come on, Specsy.
What is it now?
Come over here and see the turkey.
You ain't got 2, have ya?
Nah, one's enough. Uncle Ab says he got the biggest prize turkey this town has ever seen.
No thanks, I ought to get home. My dad's going out and taking me hill coasting this afternoon. Too bad Mr. Sawyer is a stiff and won't take you himself.
I get awful sick of whopping your Specs, but let me hear that again and I'll baste you good.
Jimsy, get your sled, my boy. We'd better try it out before dinner.
It had been a challenge to the Sawyer home, which the first citizen returned. But afterwards, in a wild moment of panic, the first citizen felt that he would have retracted at any cost, had it not been for the wonderful glow in Jimsy's face. Heaven help him, he liked Jimsy and wanted to please him. Watch out for that tree. Be careful, take turns. The hill was full of watchers. That in itself was disconcerting. Wild spirits gather in the snow on Christmas morning, and it was, of course, like Jimsy, to fling himself upon his sled with a whoop and go flying down the hill. But the first citizen wished he had made his debut a trifle less conspicuously. What on earth was he doing here anyway in this rough and tumble sport?
The world is all wrong. I am not myself.
Ever go belly whopper, Uncle Ab?
I hardly think so.
I don't want to go belly whoop with you standing up here alone. Why don't you go down just once with me, Uncle Ab? Then if you like it, we'll just have a thump whopper time.
Oh, Jimsy, I can't do that.
Afternoon, Mr. Sawyer.
Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Middleton.
Specs told me you were joining the boy today. Can't say that I believed him, but here you are.
Oh, of course I'm here. It's Christmas morning, and Jimsy wanted to break in his new sled.
Of course. It's Christmas morning after all. Is it to your liking?
What's that? Sledding? Oh, yes, very much so. Jimsy and I I was just about to join him. Sledding.
Well, is that so? I would like to see that, Mr. Sawyer. I imagine everyone on the hill would like to see that.
I don't know that it's anything worth watching, Mr. Middleton. Just another sled.
Hey, you kids. Yes, let's all clear a path for Mr. Sawyer. He and Jimsy are going down the hill together.
Very kind of you, Mr. Middleton.
So the first citizen seated himself stiffly on the sled behind Jimsy, wondering what on earth to do with his legs. They seemed to have lengthened mysteriously, and they looked astonishingly fragile. Jimsy gave a wild whoop of warning, and the sled hurtled down the hill. The first citizen's emotions were panoramic. There was panic first at his lost dignity, then wonder at their speed, then concern over their ability to stop.
Gosh almighty, Uncle Ab, let's go again. You ain't really done no belly whopping yet.
Was that what you call a walloper thump?
Thump Walper? Yes, sir, Uncle Ab.
And now, for the first time, Abner Sawyer realized that there was friendliness in the faces around him. He had felt so far away when standing up on the hill, but now there was no scandalized amazement at the first citizen's downfall. No, he was somehow closer to them all. Jimsy's Christmas fled at midnight. The time approached for Abner Sawyer to deliver Jimsy to the train station. It was a common enough sight, a woman clinging to a child and crying. But Abner was aware of a swelling mutiny in his throat and a blur to his vision.
Don't cry, Aunt Judith. I'll be as good as I know how. And you'll be awful good to Stump. Well, yeah, he's had a hard life. Yes. And tell Specs I said goodbye.
Yes, Jimsy.
And write to me every week about Uncle Ab and you and Stump. Don't forget about
Everything, dear. I'll write about everything.
Goodbye, Aunt Judith.
Jimsy!
Abner Sawyer fled to his wagon with his hands upon his ears. It was the wildest sobbing he had ever heard. When Jimsy came at last, looking very red and swollen, Abner Sawyer avoided his gaze. At the train station, a bell clanged, and the minister said his farewells to Jimsy. There was much noise and puffing, and the train was underway. Jimsy, waving wildly from the window, said his goodbyes to his Uncle Ab. Then something happened. A shaking hand touched the baggage master's shoulder.
Stop the train. It is important. I will pay if necessary.
It was unprecedented, but thoroughly rural in his taste for sensation. The baggage master leaped to the bottom step of the nearest car and spoke to a brakeman. There was a hissing and a jerk. When the train rumbled to a stop, Abner Sawyer was already striding up the aisle. He snatched Jimsy from his seat, carried him down the aisle, down the steps, and over to the platform.
What is it, Uncle Ab? Did I forget something?
Jimsy, you said I ought to give Aunt Judith a Christmas present, and I am. I'm going to give her you.
Every story should have a happy ending. You know, Ethel, whether you're speaking or singing, you've got the voice of an angel.
Oh, thank you, Mason. You know, I've heard that you also have a charming voice, and I was hoping, well, my kid sister Edna and I were hoping you would join us with a simple traditional carol.
Oh, you were? Oh, that sounds lovely. Jerry! Well, Jerry, why don't you come over here and join us? It seems to be parts for two men in this. You can handle the bass. I think I can take care of the tenor. All right.
Here's our start pitch. Let me find it now. Oh, here we go. Lulay, thou little tiny child, bye bye, lulay, 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 thou little tiny child, bye bye, lulay, lulay. Oh, sisters, too.
folks, Christmas spirit is expressed in so many ways. Through lights and evergreen, laughter and music, community and fellowshipping. And it is most certainly celebrated through family and friends and loved ones making time for each other, whether you're finding a new family like little Jimsy, or learning to appreciate your loved ones for the first time like old Eb Scrooge. From our family to yours, thank you. Thank you for the support over the last 4 years, and thank you for helping us to honor Christmas. If you'll indulge me for a few minutes, I have something here I'd like to read as we close the show. Lights, please. And there were in that same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round the young Virgin Mother and Child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
This concludes our performance of Twas. We hope you've enjoyed this time with us as much as we've enjoyed spending it with you. As we leave you tonight, remember to take a moment to smile at your neighbor, exchange happy holidays with the stranger at the store, and to tell the people in your life how much you love and appreciate them. There's no better time than now. Have a wonderful holiday season and a very Merry Christmas, everyone, and God bless.